There's so much here. Yeah. The holding back of the internal documents. If they want to be transparent and say we're doing our best, you know, we're hoping for the best, here are the documents, let's talk about them. They wanted to keep these documents back from the American people. Why?
Well, I think it's very embarrassing for them, particularly the two things that we just talked about. The first, that there's essentially little or no benefit for people who already were infected, which is the opposite of what they wanted the message to be, which is, you know, they wanted a simpler message rather than a true message.
But this is why every time Fauci was asked about this, Phil, you remember he's very smart, so he's very careful how he didn't close the door completely. He's like, we're still studying this. Like throwing away decades of what they know about coronaviruses and previous infections.
About the human immune system in general. Yeah, I mean, look, I mean, even the and of course the other thing that we just saw, which is that transient immune suppression, the fact that your white blood cells are suppressed for 7 days after getting the shot. How many people do we know just in our own lives who got the shot then got COVID right away in the next week? And the same people who said you need to be locked down in your house and hide for a year and a half, they didn't say you need to be super careful for a week after you get the shot. Why?
We weren't told any of this. Why?
Because they didn't want it. Because everything they've done for 2 years, it has not been about telling the truth. It's been about telling what they think you need to hear to behave the way they want you to behave. And they were not going to say anything that would reduce uptake of the vaccine.
It's disgusting. Here's another nugget from Pfizer's documents. Adverse events were generally milder and less frequent in participants of the older group compared with the younger group, and overall tended to increase with the increasing vaccine dose. So, more adverse reactions to younger people. We all know, of course, the cases of young, healthy men, athletes, having some cardiac issues, some transient issues, but some not, some fatal.
I think we've done a very, very poor job of giving advice that's tailored to individuals and of looking at risk and benefit for individuals. They wanted a simple message. Everyone needs 2 shots. Everyone needs them on the same timetable. Now we're up to 3. Now we're up to even 5 for immune suppressed. So look, I don't know what to say. They didn't tell the truth.
Now scientists find the virus contains a tiny chunk of DNA that matches sequence patented by Moderna 3 years before the pandemic began. Your reaction, Stéphane. What can you tell us?
So my scientists are looking into those data to see how accurate they are or not. As I've said before, the hypothesis of an escape from a lab by an accident is possible. You know, human makes mistakes. So is it possible that the Wuhan lab in China was working on viruses enhancement or gene modification? And then there was an accident where somebody was infected in the lab and then infected their families and friends. It is possible. On the claim you just mentioned, the scientists are analyzing to know if it's real or not.
Yeah, I mean, I was struck by the line, it matched a genetic sequence patented by Moderna for cancer research purposes, Stéphane.
Yeah, and that's the type of things that the team is looking at very carefully to know is it real or not. Okay. So it takes a bit of time to analyze all the genetic sequence.
To kick off, actually, and get a bit of a scene setter from Mr. Gates, because this is, I know, a topic that you've spoken on again and again. You were ahead of the curve prior to the beginning of this pandemic. Where would you assess where we are today in beating COVID-19?
Well, sadly, the virus itself, particularly the variant called Omicron, is a type of vaccine. That is, it creates both B-cell and T-cell immunity, and it's done a better job of getting out to the world population than we have with vaccines. If you do sero surveys in African countries, you get well over 80% of people have been exposed either to the vaccine or to various variants. And so, what that does is it means the chance of severe disease, which is mainly associated with being elderly and having obesity or diabetes, those risks are now dramatically reduced because of that infection exposure. And it's sad we didn't do a great job on therapeutics. Only here 2 years in do we have a good therapeutic. Vaccines, it took us 2 years to be in oversupply. Today, there are more vaccines than there is demand for vaccines. And that wasn't true. And next time we should try and make it, instead of 2 years, we should make it more like 6 months, which certainly, some of the standardized platform approaches, including mRNA, would allow us to do that. So, it took us a lot longer this time than it should have.